whatever we have a bug fix, we documented it. Whenever we have a bug that we haven't solved, on our website there is a knowledge base of 250 articles, knowledge base articles, and there we document how to do things, how to solve problems. If we recognize a bug, it's documented there. So all the people that work with our tool, absolutely, they know everything about the product. The only thing that they don't have is the source code of the migration engine. Okay, but the story of the product is documented here. So you see, this is version 3.1 or 1.3.1 in May, and before that we had another one in February, and so forth. So the product is more and more powerful, is robust, is stable, etc. Okay, we already migrated millions of lines of code, and we constantly add new features, etc. We have a partnership all over the world. Of course, our first partner, in a sense, is Microsoft, because they need to have this line, this code, VB6 code, migrated to a more modern system. So we have a case study published on Microsoft Corporation website. We are constantly in touch with the Europe branch of, the Italian branch, Microsoft Europe, in the US, Japan, etc. Actually, Microsoft Europe, EMEA, they are co-financing the big project I was hinting at before, the 50 million lines of code project. So that's a project that's co-financed by Microsoft and the ASV. Oh, by the way, remember I was talking about the convert test fix methodology. I told you that you can have the development side by side in VB6 and VB.NET. This is exactly what the ISV is doing. The ISV doing that huge migration. They are doing exactly that, and they plan to release the .NET version next May, I guess. And they also plan, since they are in ISV, it's not for internal use, they have to sell this stuff. And they know they cannot ask their customers to immediately switch to .NET and change all their computers, etc. In some cases, the operating system, reinstall everything, and so forth. So they plan to use our methodology, which they already successfully use, but they plan to keep both the VB6 and the VB.NET product selling for at least 1 year. So they will keep selling the same product written in VB6 and .NET, and the great thing is that the maintenance, all the new modules will be written in .NET, but the maintenance team will apply bug fixes, etc., only on the VB6 code. And each night or whatever, they will remigrate, automatically remigrate, and produce a working VB.NET application. This is something that's absolutely out of reach for any other kind of approach. And of course, we have partners in the US, in other countries, including Israel with Matrix. We have several sites on our own website. For example, Danske Bank in Denmark is the largest bank in the Nordic region, and they migrated an ATM system. It was a middle-sized application in a sense. It's just 350,000 lines of code, but it's interesting that they changed the user. It is the application responsible for the user interface and the business logic of the ATM machine, or the FTM teller, no, the automatic teller machine, the money machine. And we managed, thanks to our, actually they did the migration, not us. They did the migration, and they managed to preserve exactly the same user interface, down to the single pixel, which it's an achievement by itself, because you know the screen is limited, the resolution is limited, even a single pixel was important, and we actually helped them to reshape the .NET controls to reach the pixel by pixel equivalence, and all of that was done automatically. And this is also interesting. This is an official Microsoft case study. This is our first partner in Austria. And before they started, they did exactly what Matrix did. They looked around and said, OK, let's see which migration tools we have. So they took 6 products, and they compared them. They had a POC, a proof of concept from their customer, and they tried to migrate the POC. And it took 2.5 hours to get a running version with us, and 13 hours with the closest competitor. This is the kind it's not always that the ratio, of course, can vary, but the idea is that you can thanks to our approach, you can be very, very, very productive. Any questions so far? Oh, by the way, Shar, if you think that I'm skipping over some topics that you think can be important, because you know the audience, of course, more than I do, and therefore just put me in the right direction. VB migration partner, of course, our aim is, our main goal is delivering zero defect VB.NET code. And we reached that stage thanks to a better parser and code generator. As I said, it's been written explicitly for VB6 to .NET migration, and it's been written in a .NET version, in .NET language, which is important. The fact that it's written in .NET, in VB.NET in this particular case, it's important because you can extend it. We offer several, for our customers, for our partners, there are several ways to extend the power of the product. And you don't even need to, we don't need to modify the source code of our application, because it's been written using very modern concept of course, object-oriented programming, attribute-based programming, etc. So we use modern software engineering techniques to do that. As a matter of fact, I mean, the core team that works at this application is surprisingly small compared to what the application does. Our goal was to convert large and evolving VB6 applications, and that's why we have the convert test fixed methodology I'm going to talk in a moment. And we also have pragmas, which are probably the single most important feature in our product. And we also offer guidance for the migration process. Typically, when we emit code, we optionally can emit comments in the code that tell the developer, you can improve this portion by doing this. It's up to you. There is a limit to what an automatic migration tool can do, of course, but the idea is that we have such a good knowledge of the problem. We know the points in code where, for example, optimization could be performed with the best effect, and so we suggest that to the customer, to the user. Okay, going more specifically, this is more technical. I don't know how many of you are really deep into, how many of you get their hands dirty with code, but basically we do convert virtually all the VB6 language elements, including most, I would say all of them, all of those that were supposed to be impossible to translate automatically. We translate the Go subs, for example, and calculate the GoTo and Go subs. We have several strategies to deal with the arrays WL bound, different than 0, and so forth. We can deal with variants. Variants are probably the single most difficult feature. I would say the single VB6 feature that is so complicated to be automatically translated to VB.NET for several reasons. But we have some good strategies to deal with wizards, variants there, unlike the Visual Studio Wizard. And we can actually prove that compared to the upgrade wizard that comes in Visual Studio, we can produce 5 to 10 fewer errors, fewer compilation errors, and even a higher ratio than that for runtime errors. And it seems to be, no, I'm just boasting. I can prove this. As a matter of fact, what we did a very simple thing that, surprisingly, no other vendor has done. So my reasoning is very simple. If you have a tool that migrates from here to there, what's the simplest and most effective way to prove that your tool is effective? You take one or more VB6 samples and you create a video or just migrate them and deliver the corresponding VB.NET or C# solution. I mean, it's the most obvious approach. I want to prove you that my tool works well. As a matter of fact, we have done exactly that. We went around on the internet. We didn't want you to believe, you potential users or customers, to believe that we built our VB6 samples just on purpose, for the only purpose to prove, oh, look how smart we are, how effective we are. No, we went to the internet and downloaded several open source projects that are available on I mean, they are small projects. They can be 10,000 lines of code, less or little more. This is more or less the 5 to 10,000 lines of code. So we download this code and we passed them through our tool, and we saw how many compilation errors we had, and we tried to measure the effort that we needed to get rid of those compilation errors and having a runnable, fully working .NET application. It's obvious. It's the most obvious thing that you can do. As a matter of fact, we did that. We took this assortment of probably more than, should be 120, something like that, open source VB6 projects, and we found that our tool has this kind of ratio compared to other tools on the market. Okay, and we published that. So, surprisingly, we are the only vendor that does that. It's amazing. To me, it's amazing. Another important feature that we have is advanced code analysis. Why I'm insisting on this point? Because the larger is your application, the more support you need when you do the migration to understand its structure, and above all, understand how you could improve it. And of course, we cannot completely revise and change the architecture of the application. If the application is written for a rich client, our tool cannot move that to the internet. Nobody can. I will never believe that. I would never believe that in the next, say, 50 years, something is going to happen. A tool that automatically does this kind of translation. But anyway, what we do is we apply advanced code analysis. For example, we can spot the pieces of code, methods and classes and forms or whatever that are unused. And some software engineering researches prove that if you have an application that has been maintained by different developers over the years, etc., typically from 5 to 10% of the total code is never used any longer, but it stays there. And when you migrate that code, of course, you don't know at first if it's useful or not. You have to migrate it, you have to get rid of compilation errors, you have to spend time on pieces of application that are never going to be used anyway. So we spot these pieces of code and give you the option to automatically drop it if you want, or comment, remark it out, for example, etc.